When the heat turns up and your impulses take over, it's exactly the type of feeling I want from my summer books. A summer book to me needs to feel hazy, surreal, messy, maybe have a little bit of gossip, like definitely needs to have gossip. More than anything, it just has to be fun. So in today's video, I want to talk about 4 books that do exactly that for me and more. Starting with The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. Okay, this book is very popular, so I'm sure a lot of you have read it already. I listened to it on audiobook last year, and when I tell you, I had so much fun. Let me explain. So this book is set in 2010s Ireland, and we follow Rachel and James as they are just living their lives. It's a coming of age story where 2 best friends are just living it up, partying, and getting involved in mess, drama, and gossip, which is just everything to me. I feel like the more I tell you about this book, the more I run the risk of spoiling it. So all you really need to know is that Rachel and James are best friends. They both work at a bookstore together. Rachel goes to college, and Rachel has a big crush on her lit professor. So of course, James, being so messy, is like, why don't you tell him that we can throw a book release party here at the bookstore for him because he has like a new book coming out. And Rachel's like, wow, what a genius idea. So in this book release party, Rachel tries to like seduce this man, but ultimately they both end up realizing something that they will have to keep a secret, and that leads them to almost like live a double life for a little bit because nobody can find out, or otherwise some lives will be ruined. I do have to say, more than anything, like at its core, this book is about friendship and the people that we morph into when we experience a platonic soulmate level type of love in a friendship. I love books that just capture a very specific season of life and that fully immerse you into the day-to-day of characters that are just trying to figure out life and like making terrible decisions in the process. And that is exactly what I think this book does. I must say, if you are having a boring summer, this book will have you cackling and living vicariously through other people. I think a lot of people can underestimate how much time one spends indoors and like feeling lonely during the summer, because it can sometimes feel a little isolating, especially if you don't have that many friends. So I feel like this book will keep you company and just make you realize that life is so much fun. So yeah, it's a 5-star out of 5-star for me. This book is a great airplane read, so don't say I never tell you anything, okay? I love it. On to the next one. My next book is Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin. Now, I read this in Spanish, as you can tell. I mean, in case you're not familiar, Samanta is an Argentinian writer who likes to explore the sort of edge of what is possible in between the supernatural and the logical, and how honestly, it can be so easy for anybody to lose their mind trying to rationalize the whole thing. The supernatural elements in this book are used so cleverly to explore the lack of resources that people in rural towns have, which lead them to make decisions out of desperation and ultimately makes them seek alternatives to relieving suffering. Before I say anything else, let me explain to you what this book is about. So in this story, we follow Amanda, who is spending the summer in a small rural town in Argentina with her daughter and husband. Amanda befriends a woman named Carla who has a son named David, who is pivotal to this story because, as we find out very quickly, something has happened to Amanda and her daughter. And David is sort of the only person who can communicate with Amanda through the subconsciousness of it all. I can't tell you more, I'm sorry. Because David is able to speak to Amanda, he is able to walk her through her memories, and we get to learn what happened to David, Amanda, and her daughter through this sort of like second person dialogue between Amanda and David. So I know this sounds disorienting and confusing, which I feel like it can be at the beginning of the book, but I think because this story is so immersive, it ended up working really well. I personally find the supernatural of the summertime to be very, very interesting. I think a lot of people tend to think of the supernatural as like this fall or winter type of energy, but as someone who has never actually had to live through a proper winter, I can only really relate to the phenomenon of being so hot outside that you can't think straight. So this is a story that feels very personal to me because I feel like I know these people and I know how this story goes down because I understand the cultural implications of why somebody would make the decisions that they make, if that makes any sense. Now, don't be fooled because I know I've mentioned the supernatural a lot, but at its core, this is a book about environmental destruction. Believe it or not, it is about the harm that is caused to the people who live in rural areas and how the government and I guess the agricultural industry as well harm these people to like a point of no return, basically. So the supernatural elements are used almost to explain what is unexplainable to the characters. But because this is Samanta Schweblin, we don't actually understand, because this was so good, what part of it belongs to the supernatural and what part of it stops. For me, honestly, if I can make a recommendation, the best way to read this book is in 1 or 2 afternoons, and then you have to watch the film adaptation of this, which is on Netflix, like immediately afterwards. I love the experience of watching a film adaptation right after I finish the book, because to me it's always so surprising to see how different some places are depicted on film than how I imagine them. I always imagine houses to be much smaller than I end up seeing them on film, which I think is fun. I don't know, I love it. Okay, so next on my list is actually one of my favorite books of all time, okay? When I tell you this book is so special to me, I swear this is the only book that I have re-listened to on audiobook, and it is the perfect summer read for a variety of reasons. Okay, first of all, I think that if you want to have the best experience reading this, you should listen to the audiobook while you are reading this, because Isa's voice in the audiobook is everything to me. Let me not get ahead of myself, okay? Happy Hour is this sort of slice of life type of novel following our protagonist Isa and her friend Gaia as they sublet a room in New York City in the 2010s to basically just like spend the summer hanging out, living life, having fun, going out, and just, you know, being it girls out and about in the city. Was this book my entire personality for like a whole summer? Yes, it was. By the way, this is Marlowe Granados' debut novel, which I think is insanity. I need her to write another one. She wrote this one for me. And I know a lot of people say the same thing because this book is so special. It means so much to so many people, but like, she wrote this one for me. Isa is everything to me because she is a fabulous, intelligent, self-aware, witty it girl who is just so rich in charisma. The overall thesis of this book is the use of charisma as currency, and how Isa, more than Gaia, by the way, take that currency into every space they walk into, every conversation they have. Like, from partying to getting jobs to being around cool, interesting people, Isa has a very unique voice, with very, very funny, very interesting, very insightful observations that will just have you dying. Like, it was so delightful to be in her mind, in her thoughts. It does read like a journal at times, which is everything to me. Let me set the scene, okay? I think the best way to read this book is honestly by the pool, like 3 White Claws deep. Like, actually, funny, I don't drink White Claws. I'm a neutral girl now, but you know, truly White Claw, whatever it is that you do, 2-3 White Claws in, and this book, honey, you're having the summer of your life. As they say, this is for the girls and the gays. And it's for people who understand. I think actually Isa says this in the book. It's for people who understand the harm of taking yourself so seriously that you lose your sense of humor. I think I got this from this book. Do you see what I'm saying? You will thank me later for this one. I'm losing light. Can you tell? Okay, I have one last book on my summer list, and this one is for my freaks in the back of the room. Yes, this book is for my smut positive girlies, and yes, I'm talking about The Pisces by Melissa Broder. Just so you know, there is a bookstore that sells a hat that says I survived The Pisces by Melissa Broder. Listen, I love Melissa Broder. I love her voice. I love her tone. I think she's a fabulous woman. And I think more people like Melissa should write books. In The Pisces, we follow a woman named Lucy who is like in the midst of a breakup, and she's also writing her dissertation on Sappho and is basically struggling to like put her feelings on paper because her life is kind of falling apart, and she realizes that she hasn't really experienced desire in the way that she is trying to explore in her writing. So this dissertation serves as this reminder of her need for passionate love and her desire to like go and get it now that she's single. Because she's fresh off a breakup, her sister goes, oh, why don't you come house sit for me while I go on vacation. Her sister lives in Venice Beach. She has a dog that, why did I say it like that? She has a little doggy that she also has to like dog sit, and one day she's like, okay, well, I guess I will pack my bags and like go live in Venice for a bit. While she's in Venice, she ends up joining a therapy group for love and sex addicts, and it is in this group that we get so much gossip. So one day Lucy walks to the beach. She's just like having one of those summer nights, and she, I think, sits by some rocks just to kind of like think, and all of a sudden there's a man in the water just swimming, just in the water. And what do you know, he's so hot, so charming, he's emotionally available, and you know, also a merman. Yes, fishtail and all, fully like will die if he steps off the ocean type of merman. Because this is a Melissa Broder work of fiction, she has her character Lucy get into an entanglement with this merman, and it is through this, can I even call it a relationship, fling, that we explore desire, passion, longing, and like an obsession to love and be loved in a very passionate, like full of life type of way. Now, I mentioned this book was for the freaks in the back of the room because it does have a good amount of sex in it, and you know, from a certain point onward, she's getting it down with the merman. So it will not be for everyone, but it definitely was for me because it was fun. I actually don't have that much experience reading erotica or smut. I hate that word, by the way. But what I can say for sure is that the elements of that are paced very well in this book, and they feel right in that they serve to further explore the themes that the book is trying to talk about, which are love addiction, desire, and ultimately loneliness. So you will not be getting smut for the sake of smut, but you know, the scenes are quite graphic because we're talking about a merman, so just beware, okay? What makes this a very fun and good summer book is the loneliness and reflectiveness of a late summer night. So think about how when you're reflective, sometimes you can get so lost in thought that the heat doesn't even bother you anymore. Like you acclimate to this sticky, humid weather, and that is exactly the type of feeling I get from this book. Of course, it's also set in Venice Beach, so some of it just feels very airy and breezy. It's like half dreamt. The girls are having meltdowns and hookups. You know, we get so much gossip from the therapy group. So yeah, it's such a fun time. I love Melissa Broder. Like I said, it's not for everyone, but it was for me. Alright, so those were my book recommendations for all of you. If you made it to this point, I really appreciate all of your love. Please tell me what books you have read from my list, and also give me recommendations because I am always looking for a good book. I hope I get to see you soon, and yeah, thanks for watching again. Bye!